And we are live. It was an interesting round one, to say the least. What a first round in the NCAA tournament. Just check my non-existent notes here and grab the link for the stream. And we'll get into it in just a minute. But okay, and now we're ready to start. It was a crazy day, I suppose. That's one way to look at it, and go back and check the as the brackets finished out. So you had Baylor winning, which of course I think Baylor was like 96%, 97%. I think the people that took Hartford were only people that lived in Hartford or had a connection to the school. Other than that, there wasn't very many people who took Hartford. Wisconsin, North Carolina, which was a matchup that I was looking forward to. Let me minimize that. Okay. Never mind. I thought Wisconsin was going to win. I had Wisconsin winning that one. I didn't think they would win by almost more than 20, but I had Wisconsin winning. Then you have Nova versus Winthrop, and I had Nova winning. I didn't think it was, and Winthrop played them tough, and gave them a ball game. Then you had Purdue and North Texas, and I had North Texas winning. There's something about round one and the first the 4-13 matchup. You have a lot of 4-13s where every year you seem to have at least one or two 13s come out. And I'm not saying that that's true, but it just seems like it, that you have a 13 or a 4 a 13, a 12, one of those somewhere in there, that one of those comes out. Then you had Texas Tech and Utah State, which was I had Texas Tech the whole way. And then you had Arkansas and Colgate. Colgate gave Arkansas a game at the beginning and kept it close till about 15 minutes to go in the second half. And then Arkansas will absolutely put them away. Then you had Florida and Virginia Tech, with Florida winning in overtime. I had Florida. We'll come back to the biggest upset of the day in just a minute. We'll circle back around to that. Then you had Illinois and Loyola. Okay. You had Illinois and Drexler. Of course, Illinois won and one going away. Almost 30 points. So that was that one, and then you had Loyola Chicago versus Virginia Tech, and that was Loyola Chicago. That one was kind of a toss up because you always have an 8-9. 8-9s are usually one of the best matchups because they're two of the most evenly matched teams. And then you had Tennessee and Oregon. I had Tennessee. Unfortunately, I had Tennessee. I was tempted to take Oregon, but I didn't really know a lot about Oregon. I haven't watched them play a lot of basketball. Playing on the West Coast, playing late at night on the East, you don't really get to watch a lot of them. But then you had Oklahoma State and Liberty, and Oklahoma won. I had Oklahoma, had them the whole way. Then you had Syracuse and San Diego State, and I was torn on that one. I was like, okay, which one is the power, Does an old power get back to the top, or do we see a new face come in and take over? And of course, the old power rose to the occasion. Then you had West Virginia and Morehead State. Of course, West Virginia rolled to a fairly easy win. Then you had Rutgers and Clemson. I had Rutgers. I've watched a couple Rutgers basketball games. They're a scrappy, feisty little team, and they can give people fits in the tournament. Then you had Houston and Cleveland State. I need to issue a correction. I thought that Cleveland State was the local team here, but actually that's Cleveland, Ohio, not Cleveland, Cleveland, Tennessee, where I reside. So Houston moved on to round 2. And so now we're going to get into the biggest upset of the tournament thus far in round 1. That would be Oral Roberts upsetting Ohio State, which I had Ohio State in the, I believe it was the Sweet 16. No, I had them, in the Sweet 16. I had Ohio State losing to Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Anyway, and that's why we play. As much as we talk about why we play the games, and how much we, how often we say, oh, that's why you play the games. This is why you play the games, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know when you're going to get a 5-2 or 15-2. That's the words I was looking for. A 15-2 that actually, that where you have a 15 jump up and bite the big teams. This is only like the 4th time that a 15 has actually made it over a 2. I was a big fan of I was a big believer in Ohio State. Not a big fan. Not a big fan, but I was a big believer in Ohio State. I thought they were gonna cruise through round 1, and they probably should have. I mean, they only lost by 3 in overtime, and they should have never gone to overtime in the first place. Ohio State had. I feel like Ohio State overlooked Oral Roberts. They were looking on to round 2 and 3 when they would face much stiffer competition in either Florida or Virginia Tech, especially Florida. I think Florida will beat Oral Roberts. I don't see why they wouldn't. I think Florida's on in the Sweet 16. So that's the idea that I have when it comes to the second round, because with Ohio State losing, it totally blew up my bracket. It really did. It really screwed my bracket all to hell and back. Because again, I went out on a limb and I took Cleveland State. I should have taken Oral Roberts apparently. Because that, again, as I've said, that's why you play the games. Because you play when you're like, why do we play the games? Obviously Ohio State's gonna win, right? So why even bother showing up? And that's why you play the games. That's what makes March Madness so much fun, is because there's always an upset or 6, and so that's what makes sports in general so much fun, is because it's not like scripted television. At least ideally it's not like scripted television. You have the chance to make your own destiny. Like with a scripted TV show or a movie or a book, the author has already decided in his mind, or the writers of a show or a movie or a book have already decided in their mind the conclusion to the book. And there's nothing that a fan or a participant can do because it's not real. Whereas with sports, of course this is idealized, because there's been times where people are cheating and have rigged games, and that happens. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because it obviously does. And so what you end up with is, in a for want of a better word, a perfect world, you end up with a excuse me, a true outcome where the individuals that participate in the event are all participating fairly. Honestly, they're all participating honestly in the game. And so what you end up having is a true outcome. Whereas with a book or a movie or other forms of entertainment, music or whatever, the outcome is already pre-planned. With sports, you expect to have the outcome is unknown. You won't know until the final bell. And that's what makes sports fun for a lot of us, for people who like sports, who, when you watch a movie, let's say you're watching Avengers, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get superheroes. You're going to get, explosions and fights. And, eventually at the end of it, the good guys are going to win. The bad guys are going to be defeated. No matter what movie you're watching or what show you're involved with, eventually the good guys are going to win and the bad guys are going to lose. With sports, I hesitate to use the term enemy when talking about my opponents, because I don't think of them as my enemy. They're just the other guys, and they want to succeed just as much as anybody. And I say this a lot when it comes to criticism of a team or an individual player. The other guy is allowed to make plays. So even like the games yesterday with Oral Roberts coming out on top over Ohio State, which I wasn't too saddened by. The thing about it is that Oral Roberts, nobody told them they couldn't win. There was no pre-planned destiny, and that's what makes sports so much fun. You look back at the Daytona 500 just this year, and you have Michael McDowell win the son of a bitch, because he was in the right place at the right time when they wadded him up going into 3. I mean, and you also have a perfect storm of the fact that earlier in the race, he managed to dodge the first big one at lap 15, right before the red flag. So that's what makes sports so much fun. When I talk to people and they're like, "Oh, I don't like sports. It's boring," or "I don't get it," I'm like, that's what it is. If you're ever trying to talk to someone who doesn't watch sports or doesn't like sports or isn't heavily invested in them, and they ask you, "Why do you like sports?" For me, and then you can take it and paraphrase this for yourself, why I like sports is because of the unknowns. Because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know how it's going to happen. You're sitting there and you're watching the game and you're like, "Man, this is a really good game." And then you're sitting there and you're watching, "Oh, well, this game stinks. I'm going to see what else is on." The sports is not the time commitment of the century either. I know a lot of people who like sports but don't watch every game, and or you're like me, especially with what I do and being involved in the podcasting and really enjoying it and talking to you people. What do you mean, you people? I mean, talking to you guys and gals. I'm heavily invested. This is what I do. I watch as much as I can. I'm invested. I'm learning every day, trying to learn more about behind the scenes stuff and coaching and playing and trying to get a better perspective of how things go down, and reaching out to people and trying to talk to them and having and interacting with more and more sports people as I go along. For me, that's what makes sports so much fun, is that there's always going to be another game, and no two games are going to ever be identically the same. You can watch the same teams play and have two totally different outcomes. You can play that Oral Roberts game 10 times. The round 1 Oral Roberts Ohio State, play it 10 times, and 9 times Ohio State's going to win, right? Play it 100 times. 99 times, Ohio State's going to win. You play it 1,000,000 times. 999,900 times, Ohio State wins, right? But the one time Ohio State loses, you could play that game 3 months ago, right? In the regular season. Ohio State's wins 101-53, right? And everybody thinks, they're playing each other now. Ohio State's going to win. And, you have to assume that Ohio State's a better program, more prestige, So you have to assume that Ohio State's going to win. And then, that the one thing that is that no one told Ohio State, or no one told Oral Roberts that Ohio State had to win, And that's what makes sports so much fun. At least for me. And, I know a lot of people don't like sports. I remember a few years ago watching an episode of Golick and Greeny in the morning. Or Mike and Mike, I'm sorry. Mike and Mike. And Mike Greenberg was wondering why there was 150 million people that tuned in. There was like 120 or 110 million that tuned in for the Super Bowl that year. And he was wondering what everyone else was doing. And it's like, I was like, Mike, there are so many people that just don't care about sport. Don't care about football. They don't care about, even though it's the Super Bowl. They have other things that they're doing that they want to do, that they'd much rather do, and they don't want to tune in. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, Getting all bent out of shape because some people just don't like sports. And I don't like my hat right now because it's all crooked. That didn't make any better. There. Now that's better. When you have a sports talk show, it's important for sports talk show hosts. They want to have as many people watching the show as they can. And so when you have people not watching, they're like, well, why aren't you watching? And it's really simple. It's because there's other things to do, and people have found that sports just doesn't hold their interest anymore. And it goes back to, you have 30 or 40,000 years of evolutionary biology. Humans, people talk about ADHD, and not to get off onto a rant, but people talk about attention spans and how baseball is boring. And we'll talk more about the NCAA tournament in a minute, but I really want to delve deep into this right now. People talk about short attention spans. Well, humans have always had short attention spans because it's how you stay alive. When you're in the wilderness, you have to be attentive, you have to be alert, and you can't focus on something for too long, or you become somebody else's next meal. And so when you have something boring or unengaging, like in between a pitch in baseball, or a punt in football, but the changing of possessions in baseball or football, or even baseball, when the offense comes off and the defense goes back out, those are boring moments that people just aren't engaged in because it's not exciting and it's not capturing their imagination. So for sports to keep people engaged and involved, you have to have constant action. And for Americans especially, that instant gratification is important. And that's what makes football so much fun, is because one play and you can have 6 points. And, that's why football is so much fun. And even to a lesser extent, and the same kind of thing with basketball. Basketball is constant action. Up and down the court. The whole game. You got 40 or 48 minutes of pretty much nonstop action. And so you end up with games that have 101 to 121, because scoring is is the imperative in basketball. And playing defense in basketball is very difficult, and being successful is very difficult. And so you end up with a lot of, and the NBA has, and college basketball to a lesser extent, they have been modified the rules where they were 20 or 30 years ago to allow more defensive play, to stifle offense. People like offense, people like scoring, people like being excited. Hitting a big three is more exciting than a defensive stop, and basketball wants to cultivate that. And so that's what you have when you have a lot of basketball fans, purists, if you will, that don't like the way the modern NBA has gone. And I'm not anti-modern NBA by any means. I like NBA basketball. I'm really a big fan of the playoffs. Let me know. Well, I don't watch a lot of regular season basketball just because it's just regular season basketball. And I watch game here and there, a weekend game, a primetime matchup. Yeah, okay. I'll tune in, I'll watch a little bit and, see what's going on. But a lot of the times I'm just bored by regular season basketball. Playoff basketball, NCAA tournament basketball, edge of your seat, man. Even in a blowout, it's still the it's still exciting because you never know. And that's going back to Oral Roberts and Colgate, or Oral Roberts and Ohio State. That's why you watch, and Colgate too. In the first half, they kept it close. They were in the game for the longest time, and then of course Arkansas puts them away. And that's another thing that makes sports so entertaining is the fact that you can have a seemingly close game, and then the cream will rise to the top, as Macho Man might have said. And so when you have a team like when you have a tournament is the word I was looking for, like the NCAA tournament, where you have a lot of teams that you might not see on a regular basis, like an Oral Roberts or a Colgate or Winthrop, for want of examples. That's when a team can surprise you because you haven't seen them all year, and then all of a sudden here they are in the tournament and they're making hay. How far will Oral Roberts go? How far will Mean Green go, North Texas? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That's why they play the games. But that's a lot of what has transpired over the last 24 hours. Going into the tournament this week, we didn't know what we were going to get, right? We're going to have a never-before-done tournament, all in one city, all at one time. Normally, there's like 4 or 5 host locations, and so far, so good. They're showing that they can actually pull this thing off in a bubble, if you will. And I'm just so happy we have March Madness this year. I went on vacation right before the tournament was getting started last year. And so when they canceled everything, I was like, now what am I going to do? Like, when I'm here in the hotel, there's nothing to watch. I was really looking forward to the 2020 tournament. Because I look forward to the tournament every year. I think like a lot of you guys do. And gals, of course. And so with that, idea being with that being said, having the tournament back this year in one city, all at one time, within, all the games in 2 or 3 weekends, I'm excited. I'm so excited to have the tournament back. I'm so excited for the tournament to be here. Okay, so the championship game is the Monday after the Final Four. So just 2 days after the Final Four is Championship Monday. I do have a question for you guys. So leave your comments in the comment section below. Would you guys like them to move the championship games off of Monday and bring them back to Saturday? Because I would. As someone who works first shift, I hate having a championship game on Monday night, especially a game that starts, a football game that starts at 8 o'clock is not getting over until almost midnight. So if the game's close, I'm not going to be able to see the end. If it's a blowout, okay, whatever. I'll go to bed. But if it's close and I'm still in there, I want to see that. I want to watch the end of the game, but I either got to watch the end of the game or go to bed. And so I'd rather have them because, and the thing about it is you can't really record it. It's a championship game. As soon as you get on social media, or you get on, you flip on ESPN in the morning and you're like, oh, I just want to see what I missed, if there was anything that I missed. You're more than likely gonna see the score on the ticker, even if they're not talking about it, which they probably are, because it's the biggest game of the year in any given sport. So they're probably going to be basketball, football, baseball, and to a lesser extent hockey. You might be able to get away with recording the Frozen Four championship game, or maybe the baseball game championship game, but you're not getting away with football or basketball. That's just how it is, and those are the two most popular sports right now. So those are the two sports that are going to get talked about the most, especially when you have a championship game. So on Tuesday morning, you're not going to get a chance to, you're not going to, by Tuesday afternoon, especially, if you're on social media, unless you do a 24-hour social media blackout, you're most likely going to end up seeing the score. And that ruins the whole point of keeping it fresh and not knowing about it and recording it. So there's that. Now that I've rambled on for the last half hour about the NCAA tournament, let me check and see if there's anything that I missed. Real quick, we're gonna go over the other side of the bracket. So the 116 is Michigan's Texas Southern. That's tipping off at 3 o'clock. Then you've got 145 for LSU and Bonnevere, 12:15 for Colorado and Georgetown. Florida State and UNC Greensboro is 12:45. Then you got a couple of late games with BYU and UCLA at 9:40. Texas and Abilene Christian at 9:50. UConn and Maryland is a 7:10 tip. And the last team in the bracket, but not necessarily the latest game, Alabama and Ionia, is a 4 p.m. tip. So that is that for basketball. Let's move over to NFL free agency, which was busy as hell this last week. A lot of good moves by a lot of good teams. Let me grab a little bit of a notes. Perfect. I really like what the Patriots are doing to reload and rebuild. I'm a big Patriots fan. I'm a big, I grew up a Michigan guy. So, I really don't think that the Patriots are rebuilding. I think they're retooling. Because there's a lot, and as we go into pro days and we're looking towards the draft, this is what I was looking for. Perfect. I would like to see the Bengals sign Riley Reef. I'm not sure why. Riley Reef kind of sucks, but then Andrews is heading back to New England. Kyle Fuller got released by the Bears. Trubisky signs a 1-year deal with the Bills. I'm not sure why he would go to Buffalo. I don't know. Kind of get lost in the shuffle, and maybe you can come out on the other side somewhere that needs a quarterback after this year. Because he's not playing in Buffalo unless something catastrophic happens. Excuse me. Let's see. I see Will Fuller signed somewhere else. He signed with Miami. And that's interesting because if he can provide that deep threat, they may go in a different direction at 5 instead and not take a receiver or 4 in the draft, which would be interesting. I'm big on the both the kids from Alabama, Waddle and Smith. I like Smith better. I mean, I want to see him work out. Of course, I say this all the time, and I talk about GM-ship in sports. It's really hard for us fans as individuals. We're not in team meetings. We're not up in the office on Monday. We're not there during the week. We don't get a chance to talk to these guys, and we don't get to interview these kids and find out what they're like, what their personality is like, whether they're going to clash with our locker room. You can sit there and hem and haw and cuss and discuss every single individual that may be available, right? And you can want a guy, and you can want him desperately. But if you call his agent, let's say there's a guy, let's say Will Fuller is available, right? And you're really interested in him. And you call his agent in December. And his agent says thanks, but no thanks. There's no point in even bothering continuing to pursue it. Because you're wasting your time. So we can sit here, we can go, oh well, why didn't they go get this guy? Why didn't they go get that guy? Or why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? You can want to do everything that you want to do, but if you don't have the ability to do what you want to do, there's no point in even bothering, because you're wasting your time. You're just wasting your time in free agency if you're not going to be able to sign a guy. Why bother calling him up and asking him, hey, you want to come down and hang out, if he's just going to say no? If you've already reached out to his people a little bit and they've said there's no interest there, because you may not be, you may think that you have a great fit for a certain player. A certain player would work really well in your offense or defense or special teams, but you don't know that until you actually, and then you bring them in for an interview, especially with the draft class. A lot of people are like, well, why didn't they draft this kid, or they didn't draft that kid? And there's a lot more about that goes into those interviews than people realize. Those interviews that they do are important. They're incredibly important, because they're what makes or breaks a potential draft pick. You can watch all the tape you want. You can sit through 26 hours of audio tape on 3 guys, and you still won't have a feel for who they are. You'll have a feel for who they are as a player, but not as a person. What are they like off the field? What are they like in the locker room? What are they like in the community? Are they liked? Are they hated? Are they a good person? Are they a bad person? Are they somebody that's going to end up in trouble with the law or with fans later on down the road? You bring in a guy like Terrell Owens, right? He's a big personality. He's this big, goofy, weird guy who's kind of out there. And yeah, he's great for a couple of years, but he's got a terrible attitude in the locker room. You might get 2 or 3 great years out of him, but he's got a terrible attitude in the locker room, and he's going to tear your locker room apart. And you're going to end up with you end up with locker room cancer or locker room poison, and you end up killing the atmosphere on your team. I've seen teams blown up by bringing in a free agent. Teams that were on the cusp of winning it all, they just need that one guy, and they bring in that one guy, and they think, oh, we've got it made now. It's the guy who came off a Super Bowl a couple years ago or a championship a couple years ago. This is our guy. We got that guy, and some bitch, watch out. We're the best. We're going to be the best team this year, and we're going to win the Super Bowl. And 4 games in, they're already in turmoil. Or they bring in a guy and they think that he's going to be, he's going to right the ship. He's going to fix everything up. And yet what ends up happening is he ends up being a problem child. Or you have a problem child like Corey Dillon as a prime example of a problem child. Nobody likes him. He's poison in the locker room. He's a malcontent. He's unlikable. He's not a nice guy. Get him out of here. Send him to New England. Send him to New England, right? And he's great. He gets to New England. There's a different culture, a different atmosphere. He goes up to New England and wins the championship. And you end up with a lot of guys, So just as much as you can end up with a problem, and now I know that Corey Dillon was a free agent signing, so it's a little bit different. He was a trade. They traded him from. They traded him over to. They traded him to New England. I believe he was traded. Yeah, he was traded for a second in 2004. And he ended up winning a Super Bowl in New England. He played a couple of years in New England and ended up retiring. He didn't play a long career, but a fairly productive career, in my opinion. I always liked Corey Dillon. But, you can see how a change of scenery can change a man's career. It seems so obvious when you say it out loud, but, I really feel for GMs when fans want I know, highly professional, right? If fans want a certain player or personnel, well, why didn't you just go hire that guy? Like, a lot of fans wanted Eric Bieniemy to get a coaching opportunity. And, they assume that people are being mean to him or being racist to him because they won't hire him. But you're taking away his agency. Eric's a grown man with half a dozen or a dozen or more opportunities in the last 3 years to take. You can't tell me that it was all people conspiring against him. He's got a great thing going in Kansas City. How much Andy Reid is 65, 64. He's in his mid 60s. He's getting up there. How many more years does Andy Reid have? And it would help if I could spell Andy right. And then my phone would cooperate. Andy Reid is 63. So he's been around the block a couple of times. And how many more years is he going to want to coach? 2, 3, 4, 10, 15? Who knows? No, and if Kansas City is seeing the writing on the wall that Andy Reid is going to be gone in a year or two, they were going to retain a coach of the future in Eric Bieniemy. And so letting Bieniemy go would be a mistake. That's one of the reasons why. That's why I think that's one of the reasons why I think that he hasn't gone anywhere else. Is the fact that he's got Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes. And what other team has 3 guys that are that dominant in their offense right now? I mean, there's nowhere else in the league that you can go and you can have those 3 dynamic players that are on the that can start and play today. Everywhere else is looking at either a retool or a rebuild, a total teardown or a refitting, if you will. There are teams that you may not need to blow it all up, but you definitely need more than just 1 or 2 pieces to be a contender. And any team that's firing a head coach most likely is not 1 or 2 pieces away, because if they were 1 or 2 pieces away, they'd probably be in contention and they probably want to hang on to the coach. Unlike maybe Tampa Bay, but that was 20 years ago, and they were looking to get over the hump, and so sometimes you just gotta make a move. But for the most part, you're looking at teams that are either in the basement or flirting with the basement year in and year out, or over the course of several years. And there are generally coaching opportunities are for crappy teams that need a lot of help. Why would you leave a great gig like Kansas City to go to a team that needs so much more help than just one guy can offer? And then, and there's other things that go into it too, just as much as anyone individual player may want to go somewhere. An individual coach may not want to, just as much as the player may not want to go to Carolina or Kansas City or Buffalo or Baltimore or wherever. Take your pick, I got more. A coach has the same agency. He has the same ability to say, well, I don't want to go live in Minnesota from early September through late January every year. I don't want to work up there. I don't want to be involved in that. Maybe they don't want to be in the South because they don't like the culture. Maybe they don't want to be out West because they don't like the culture. Maybe, they're a backwoods country boy who is big into firearms and what they've got going on in their regular life. And he doesn't want to go out to Southern California. He doesn't want to go coach in San Francisco. And he's got a farm or a ranch that he works on 3 months out of the year, and so he doesn't want to give that up. And a lot of guys, kids, they got a family, they have wives, girlfriends, maybe wives and girlfriends. Just as long as the two don't find out of each other, they'll be all right. But excuse me for laughing at my own joke. But a lot of what happens is that you end up with just as much as you might want to bring in a coach or a GM. They have the ability to say no or not want an opportunity. They don't want to go live in New York. They don't want to live in the big city. Country kid, they don't, all they've ever known is small town living. They don't want to go live in New York and work in New York. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with living and working in New York, especially as a GM or a head coach of one of the two major franchises there. So you can see why it's so easy for someone to say, oh, let's just go get this guy. We'll go get this guy, bring this guy in, and I'll make everything better. Or maybe he doesn't want to come in. Maybe he doesn't want to be part of the show. Maybe he does. Maybe, and it's something as simple as his wife doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to uproot his kids. His kids have been he's saying he's been in Cincinnati system for 10 years. His kids are in middle school. They're in 6th and 7th grade. They've got all their friends are in Cincinnati. All the people that they know live in Cincinnati. Everything the last 10 years of their life, they've been in Cincinnati because they just, this is where we live and this is where I work, and so this is where we're going to set up shop. And then now he's got to think about, he's been an assistant coach in Cincinnati for 10 years. He started out as the assistant coach of the linebackers. And he's worked his way up to the top. Now he's an offensive coordinator in Cincinnati, and not any one individual or anything, just for want of an example. So he's in Cincinnati. He's been in Cincinnati for 10 years, and then all of a sudden, a job comes open in Jacksonville. Let's say this last year, the Jacksonville job comes open. He's the offensive or defensive coordinator in Cincinnati, or offense, either one, and he goes down to Jacksonville, looks around. Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous down here, and the weather's great all year round, and, it's hot in the summer, but we don't play in the summer, so I can find, I can have 2 homes, and they're going to pay me, $15 million a year, and it'd be nice. And he gets home, and he starts talking to his wife, and she's like, well, do we really want to move the kids? Do we really want to have 2 homes? You're down there 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week, 90 hours a week. Would you rather just stay here in Cincinnati? And, those are decisions that he has to make. And he can't, especially if he's not single. If he's a single guy in his early 30s, yeah, sure. I'll go down to Cincinnati, Cleveland, Jacksonville, wherever, and become the head coach. It's not a big deal because all he's got to do is move himself. But, a lot of guys that are coming into coaching, that are becoming head coaches or coordinators, are not young guys. They're not in their 30s. They're in their 40s or 50s. They've been doing it for 20 or 30 years. They've got roots. They're established. They've got kids. They've got a family. So it's not as easy as it would be to just pick up and move as a single guy. Especially if you've got younger kids. Kids that are 6, 7, 8, 9. Kids that are just starting to make friends, and maybe they've already moved around 3 times. This is Dad's 3rd coaching gig in his 6 years, And the last two flamed out, and he had to move on to somewhere else because head coaches were fired or coordinators were fired, and he lost his job because somebody else was bringing a whole new staff in. So we had to pick up and move somewhere else. How many times can you do that in a year or a couple of years before it just becomes too much for a family? How many families has that driven apart? That's the thing. There are often a lot of things that go into picking someone up or bringing someone in. So, now, going back to the rest of free agency, because that's where I started. Kenyon Drake signed with Oakland. Troy Hill went to Cleveland on a 4-year deal. Oh, Mason. Is that Mason? No, not Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph's the quarterback. This is, if it would load, that would help. Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph signed with the Giants. Cook agrees to deal with the Chargers. LA Chargers. Samuel signed with the Curtis Samuel signs in Washington. Van Noy back to the Patriots, which we all knew. Suck up back with Tampa Bay is a good deal. Marlon Mack to sign again in Indianapolis. And let me do this real quick. We're just going to kind of go over everything and what was an NFL free agency. I'm my own producer here, so here we go. This might be what I'm looking for. And we'll talk about the draft here in a little bit as we get. So Kenny Golladay is still available. Dak Prescott re-signed with Dallas, which kind of saw that coming. I really didn't think he would go anywhere. 4 years, $40 million. It's looking like 25 or 26 a mil a year. Leonard Williams, not a name I'm familiar with. Be quiet. And an ad playing in my head. Chris Godwin re-signed with Tampa Bay on the franchise tag. Brandon Sheep was franchise tagged by the Washington football team. Trent Williams signed a 6-year. Ooh, that's a long deal. I don't know about that one. A long deal for a 32-year-old. I don't know. 6 years, 138. That'll pretty much keep him in San Francisco for the rest of his career. Barrett re-signed with Tampa Bay. Allen Robinson was tagged by the she got 3 tags in a row. Robinson, receiver out of Chicago. Justin Simmons, a safety from Denver. And a tackle from Carolina, Taylor Morton. All franchise tagged. Then Golladay still is available. Joe Thurney signed with the Chiefs, 5 years, $80 million. Hunter Henry signed with the Patriots. That's an interesting move. If he can stay healthy, he's still young. If he can stay healthy, he can be a huge help. Then Marcus Williams was tagged by the Saints. Levante David was tagged by re-signed with the Bucks, 2 years, $25 million. Juwan Smith, another tight end, signed with New England, 4 years, $50 million. Corey Lindsey went from the Packers to the Chargers, which that can be a significant loss for Green Bay, depending on what they can do in the rest of free agency and in the draft. John Johnson signed with the Browns, 3 years, 33. Carl Lawson signed with the Jets, 3 years, 45. Curtis Samuels, which was already previously mentioned, signed with the football team. William Jackson also signed with the football team. Both got 3-year deals, upwards of $35 million each. Then Rowan Okwuegbunam, an edge rusher, re-signed with Detroit, 3 years, 39. Aaron Jones re-signed with Green Bay, 4 years, 48. Bud Dupree, which I think is a huge loss for the Steelers. I know some people were saying that he wasn't a big loss, but I think he is. I think losing Bud Dupree to the Titans is going to hurt the already beleaguered Steelers defense. Then you have Anthony Harris signing with safety signing with the Eagles. Then you have Melvin Ingram, who's unsigned right now. Trey Hendrickson, signed with Baltimore, Cincinnati, the Bengals. Corey Davis goes from Tennessee to the Jets. Juju Smith re-signs with the Steelers. Apparently, he left a lot of money on the table, but I don't know. Matt Milano signed with Buffalo, 4 years. Re-signed with Buffalo, 4 years, $40 million. Andre Villanueva is unsigned at 32. If I could get him on a 2-year deal worth 25, I would absolutely snap him up in a heartbeat. And then you have Hasten Riddick signed a 1-year, $8 million deal with Carolina, going from Arizona. Marcus May was franchise tagged by the Jets. Matthew Judon was signed with New England, which I think is a huge pickup for New England. They're going to be getting a lot of guys back next year anyway. So I'm looking forward to seeing how good that team can be next year. Daryl Williams is re-signed in Buffalo. Shaquille Griffin went from Seattle to Jacksonville, a great pickup. Really, really like Griffin. Really think he's younger. I still think he's got a lot in the tank. I think he's somebody you can build a defense around. Rob Gronkowski re-signs with the Gronkster, the Gronkinator, Gronk. Re-signs with Tampa Bay, 1 year, $10 million. Patrick Patterson goes from the Cardinals all the way up to Minnesota. Delvin Thomas signs with Minnesota as well, so they've got Minnesota's defense trying to get better. Yannick Agagwe signed with Hulkland. Will Fuller signed a 1-year deal, which we already mentioned, with the Dolphins. The terms haven't been decided yet. Jameis Winston stays in New Orleans on a 1-year, $12 million deal. Leonard Floyd stays in LA. The Rams on a 4-year deal. And now we've got a handful of guys who haven't been signed. So you got Clowney, Rhodes, Eric Wilson, Sammy Watkins, Kevin King, and Austin Renner, who are all unsigned. Then out of those guys, Watkins would be who I would target first. And then I would go Xavier Rhodes. You always need a good third corner. And then you have Jay Brown, who signed with re-signed in Tennessee. Kenyon Drake, who signed in LA, but Las Vegas, LV, I should say. Troy Hill, who signed in Cleveland. T.Y. Hilton. Got another handful of guys who are available. So T.Y. Hilton, Russell, okay, yeah, whatever. Offensive lineman, and Kenyon Neal. I would, if I could get him for the right price, Hill would be somebody who I would like to go after. I at least call his people and see what we could do, see what he was wanting. Then you have Chris Carson re-signing with Seattle. And then you have Nelson Aguilar going to New England on a 2-year deal. I like that pickup, especially if he can stay healthy. I think he can be productive for a couple of more years, and it gives somebody for Cam Newton to throw the ball to. Then you have Gerald Everett, who signed with Seattle, a tight end. Desmond King, a safety, signs a 1-year deal down in Houston, going from Tennessee to Houston. So you kind of lose a guy in the division. That hurts. Jared Cook signed a 1-year, $6 million deal with the Chargers. David Andrews re-signs with New England, undisclosed money, but he's getting 4 years. Shinobi Akwanze signed a 3-year deal with Baltimore, or with the Bengals, Cincinnati. I keep wanting to call them Baltimore, even because it's a B, and I'm thinking Baltimore, and it's actually Bengals, which is not the name of the city, but the name of the team. Matt Filler, some flyer, signed a 3-year, $21 million deal in San Diego. It was the LA, but the Chargers. Matt Skuska signed a 1-year deal with the Dolphins. Cam Robinson was franchise tagged by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Richard Sherman remains available. He will probably be available. I could see him getting a shot after the preseason when somebody's lost a corner or two. They'll bring him in, work him out, and see if he's still got anything left. Denzel Perryman signed a 2-year undetermined deal with Carolina. Alden Smith is available. Brandon Poole is available. I'm going to pass on those guys. I really don't know anything about them. Cam Newton signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with potentially to make $14 million. So I'm not too mad about that. Mike Hilton in New England. Mike Hilton signed a 4-year, $24 million deal with the Bengals. I got that one right finally. Then you've got Andy Dalton also taking a deal with the Bears, 1-year, $10 million. I really don't know how much of an upgrade to Andy Dalton is at 33 over Mitchell Trubisky. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like going from a sinking ship to a ship that's just taking on water. Ryan Keegan remains available. Xavier Woods is available. Ronald Darby signed a 3-year, $30 million deal in Denver. You got another handful of guys, looking like a lot of guys here. So you got 6 guys all remaining, or 7 guys all remaining available. And KJ Wright, James White, Rashard Breeland, Mackenzie Alexander, Chukwinski, Tart. Those guys are all available. Shelby Harris re-signs with Denver for 3 years, $27 million. Couple more guys that are available: James Conner and Ndamukong Suh. Out of the last group of people that we looked at that were available, I would definitely want to talk to James Conner over anybody else. Everybody else I could pass on. And then you have Jalen Mills, who signed a 4-year, $24 million deal in New England. And then you have Sheldon Rackins is available. Alex Mack is signed with signed a 3-year deal at 35 with San Francisco. Lawrence Guy is available from New England. Then you have Cameron Sutton, who signed a 2-year, $9 million deal in Pittsburgh. The Steelers, the Browns retained Rashard Higgins on a 1-year deal. Alex Alonso remains available. Roy Robert Harrison signed in Jacksonville, 3 years, $24.4 million. Rashaan Jenkins signed a 4-year deal in Jacksonville. You got another couple of unsigners, Malik Hooker and Ricardo Allen, both safeties, one from Indianapolis and the other from Atlanta. I would like to talk to Malik Hooker. Tyrus Bowser re-signed with Baltimore at a 4-year deal, $22 million. Antonio Brown remains available. Malik Davis signed a 3-year deal with the Chargers. Kendrick Bourne signed a 3-year deal with New England, a wide receiver. Leonard Fournette remains a free agent, and Nick Martin signed with Oakland. And that's the top 100 draft picks. I don't know. And I think I saw that AJ Green went somewhere, but I don't know where. Did he go down to Arizona? Because I didn't see him on the list. Yes. AJ Green signed with the Arizona Cardinals. So, anyway, now that that's done, the only thing left is everything else. Yes. So now we're gonna go ahead and get into the draft, and let's look at the mock drafts here real quick, if we can. Okay. I don't know if they have a full. So we're gonna look at the first round right now, and we're gonna get my computer cooperate. We're gonna look at Ryan Wilson from. Oh, he does have a full mock draft. Okay. Let me see if I can access that without having to pay. We're gonna look at Ryan Wilson, or Zach Wilson, I mean, from CBS Sports' mock draft. Not necessarily my first pick, but let me close out some tabs here. Be quiet. Good God. All right, so we're going to look at Ryan Wilson's mock draft. First pick overall, they've got Trevor Lawrence going number 1 to Jacksonville. I think that's probably going to happen. But, obviously that's going to happen. Will it be a good fit? I don't know. The Jets are kind of a dumpster fire of an organization. No offense, Lou, but they are. And they've been in trouble for the last couple of years. And I don't know if just bringing in one, don't get me wrong. Trevor Lawrence is going to has the potential to be a great quarterback. But there are so many other guys that had the potential to be a great quarterback. You look at your Jake Cutlers and your Mark Sanchez's, people that, well, if they just, they just need another year. Give them another year. They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out. And they didn't figure it out. And they're gone now. And not that they should still be around necessarily, but they're gone now. Tim Couch. He never lived up to the hype. He never lived up to his potential. Everybody had Tim Couch. It was a second overall pick, and he never could figure it out. Or a first overall pick. He was the top pick. He never could get it figured out. So, that is kind of where. Let me look him up real quick. Tim Couch was he was drafted in 90. I think it was the first. Was he the first overall pick? He was the number 2 pick overall. No, number 1. Or 5 years. 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. Yeah. 5 years. He played 5 years in New England, and then he was a practice squad guy for a couple years, and he was out of football. So then number 2, they have Zach Wilson. This guy does. I'm not sold on him. I just don't. I just haven't seen enough of him to really be sold on him. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He's he's one of those guys that could be definitely be a great NFL guy, but he could also be a flaming bust in a year and a half. I'm not sold on. I think the jury is out on Justin Wilson or Zach Wilson. I'm sorry, or Justin Wilson. Either one of those guys. So now at 3, he's got Justin Fields going to San Francisco in a trade with the Dolphins. I don't know about that. I don't know if the Dolphins will want to trade out of 3, and I don't know what the Dolphins are getting. Let me scroll down here real quick. Oh, it doesn't say what else the Dolphins are trading to the. I'm just assuming they're trading picks. I'm not sold on Justin Fields again. And we've seen how the last handful of quarterbacks coming out of the University of Ohio State have done. And we'll have to wait and see again. But Justin Fields going to excuse me, going to San Francisco is an interesting pick. At 4, they've got Petey Swell going to Atlanta. Atlanta needs help on the offensive line. I can see that. I don't think that's a terrible pick. They got Cincinnati taking Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a threat downfield, and in the pass game, he's a good blocker. So, I would not be surprised if they do take Kyle Pitts. I would also be surprised if they didn't take Jamar Chase, Waddle, or Smith to give Burrow somebody to throw the ball to. Now he's got Jamar Chase going to the Eagles at number 6. I think that they should probably go offensive line. I mean, don't get me wrong, Chase is a great receiver, but I would pass on that and go after a receiver later in the draft. There's going to be some other great receivers that are still going to be available in the draft. And Cincinnati may look at Jamar Chase from LSU to pair him back up with Joe Burrows. So do not be surprised if Joe Burrows and Jamar Chase are back on the same team again next year. Then they got Micah Peterson going, or Parson, whatever his name is, how you pronounce it. Going to Detroit, linebacker out of Penn State. Don't hate the pick. Not in love with the pick. They need help everywhere. So, I mean, I would have gone offensive line because, you want to protect Jared Goff now after signing him. But they also do have some later picks. So, then they have Mac Jones going to Carolina. I could see it. I definitely could see it. I could also see them going offense. I could see a lot of teams going offensive line, especially as we get later in the first round, where you're not having a lot of big name guys being available anymore. We'll have to wait and see. And then they got Trey Lawrence. I haven't seen enough tape on the guy. He's only a sophomore. He's coming out a year early. I would like to see more tape on him. I'm not convinced that he can play at the NFL level. We'll have to see. Then Caleb Fairley out of Virginia Tech going to the Cowboys at 11. Don't hate it. Or not 10. I'm sorry. He's the 11th prospect. Going at 10. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. Don't hate it. A great corner can make all the difference for an offensive or for a defensive line. Just as much as a great defensive line can change the way an offense runs, a defense runs. I'm sorry, or how an offense runs. A great corner, a shutdown corner who can take away a number one is invaluable because they're an asset to your defensive line because it allows your defensive line to get more pressure, and it allows you to free up somebody, a safety or a linebacker, to come on a blitz. So having a number one corner that can shut down is a great pick. Then you've got Rashaan Slater, offensive lineman out of Northwestern, going to the Giants. I could also see him going to Detroit. Very easily see Detroit taking Rashaan Slater out of Northwestern. So then Jalen Waddle out of Alabama going to Miami at 12 after the trade with the Niners. I can also see the Niners the Dolphins staying up at 3 to take Waddle anyway and not having the trade. And then they got the Chargers taking A.J. Vera-Tucker out of USC, the offensive lineman. So I could see him. I could definitely see that. And they have the Jets trading up to take Devontae Smith in a trade with Minnesota at 14. I don't know. That could be very much a possibility. He's kind of small though, but then the skinny. I'd like to see him put on 10 or 15 pounds and bulk up a little bit before he gets to the NFL. And then they have the Patriots taking Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia, Patrick Surtain II, cornerback out of Alabama, going to the Cardinals. I don't know if they still need a cornerback. I think they signed one in free agency, so they may pass on that and go somewhere else. Christian Barmore also out of Alabama, going to the Raiders. Then you got 18. You've got Jalen Phillips, defensive line out of Miami, going to Miami. And then you have J.C. Horn out of South Carolina, going to Denver at 19. Then you have Christian Darsaw O-line out of Virginia Tech going to the Bears. Samuel Kozman going to Indianapolis at 21. Quiddy Pay out of Michigan going to the Titans. I don't know about that. I don't think Quiddy Pay is a first-round pick. I think he's at best a third or a fourth-round pick, but that's just me. And then you've got Levi Onoswary going to the Vikings with a trade after that trade with the Jets. You got Kevin Jenkins going to Pittsburgh. Gary Newsome II going to Jacksonville, corner. Trayvon Morang going to Cleveland, a safety. Rashawn Bateman out of Minnesota going to Baltimore. Tyson Campbell, cornerback, going to New Orleans out of Georgia. Xavier Collins going to Green Bay out of Tulsa. Linebacker Jason Away out of Penn State going to Buffalo. Jalen Mayfield, Michigan, lineman. Not sold on the guy. He struggled a lot in big games against good defensive linemen. I would not pick him. Not at 29 at least. Again, another third or fourth round guy. Going to Kansas City. And then bringing up the rear in round 1 is Travis Etienne going to Tampa Bay. It's an okay pick. I thought this year's running back class was weaker than last year's. So we're finished with that, guys. So we're going to slip back over here and grab Chris Trapo's mock draft and see if it's any different. And see what they've got. So he's got Trevor Lawrence going 1, Zach Wilson going 2, Jalen Waddle going 3, Trey Lance going 4, and he has no movement in the first 5 picks. Be quiet, you piece of shit. Then he's got Penny Swell going to Cincinnati, Jamar Chase going to Philadelphia. They got San Francisco moving up to 7 to grab Justin Fields. Carolina, Houston moving up to 8 to pick up Kyle Pitts, which is, I don't know what they're gonna give up to get him, because they don't have a first round pick. Quiddy Pay going at 9 to Denver is way too early. Micah Peterson going to Dallas is a possibility. Devontae Smith going to, if they can't land Galladay, I can see that. And then, like I said, Richard Slattery going to Detroit. Christian Darsaw going to the Chargers. Jalen Phillips going to Minnesota. I'd rather take if I was New England, I would if Mac Jones is available at 15, I want him. Caleb Farley going to Arizona. Christian Barmore going to Las Vegas, which I think I said Oakland earlier. I meant Las Vegas. That's going to take me a couple years to get used to. Then you have Azeez Ojulari going to Miami. Andre Vera Tucker going, or Agila Vera Tucker going to Washington. Rashad Bateman going to Chicago. Kadarius Toney going to Indianapolis. J.C. Horn going to Houston. Jeremiah Owasu Komora going to the Jets. Tavon Jenkins going to Pittsburgh. Alexander Leatherwood going to Jacksonville. Gregory Rousseau going to Cleveland. Creed Humphrey going to Baltimore. Mac Jones is going to slip all the way down to 28 and go to the Saints. It's a great idea if he's available. Xavier Collins going to Green Bay. Greg Newsome going to Buffalo. Joseph Oziah going to Kansas City. And last but not least, Levi Onwuzurike going to Tampa Bay. I like a lot of those picks. A lot of picks that I would think that those teams would like to get. Then we have one other guy we're going to look at real quick. Maybe. So if I click on this, will it bring it up? No, it won't. And Josh Edwards, who I don't know. That's probably just going to bring up Trevor Lawrence. Oh, the Jackson. There we go. There we go. And we got more guys. More draft things to look at. So we got Trevor Lawrence going 1. That's pretty much the consensus. Number 1 overall. Zach Wilson at 2 is pretty much consensus. He's got Carolina moving up to get Justin Fields at 3. And he's got Rashaan Slater going 4 to Atlanta. Penny Swell going 5 to Cincinnati. Kyle Pitts going 6 to Philadelphia. Jamar Chase at 7 to Detroit. They have a need at wide receiver. Then Jalen Waddle going 8 to Miami. Micah Peterson going 11 to Denver. If I see Jerry Jones wanting another big time receiver just to stick it to the Eagles, and he's got Patrick Surtain II going to Dallas, but I could see him taking Smith if Smith is still available at 11, just because fuck the Eagles. It is the NFC East way. And he's got Gregory Rousseau going to the Giants, Trevor Lance going to San Francisco, Christian Darsaw going to the Chargers at 13. Jueva Vera Tucker going to Minnesota at 14. Mac Jones, which was my pick, at 15 to New England out of Alabama. Caleb Fairley going to Arizona. Then Devontae Smith at 17 going to Vegas. Trevor Morag going to Miami. Jeremy Onwuzurike going to Washington. Tevin Jenkins going to Chicago. Kadarius Toney going to Indianapolis. J.C. Horn going to Tennessee. Kwity Paye going to the Jets. A later first round pick, but I like it. maybe a bit of a stretch. Jalen Mayfield going 24 to Pittsburgh. Yeah, I could see that. Jacksonville taking Christian Barmore at 25. Cincinnati Cleveland taking Jalen Phillips. Aziz Ujwaria out of Georgia going to Baltimore at 27. Jamin Davis at 28 going to New Orleans. Avon Collins, Green Bay. Greg Newsome II going to Buffalo. Spencer Brown going to Kansas City. And Devontae Williams going to Tampa Bay. Devontae Williams can be a nice little back. He has played some really good games last year. So we're just going to look at one more from CBS Sports, and we'll move on because we have. Okay, was that the last guy? Oh wait, no. Okay, so that was that guy, and so now we're gonna look at the next guy, and this will be the last one. He has Trevor Lawrence going 1, which is pretty much consensus. Then he's got the Jaguars trading up to 2, or the Panthers trading up to 2 to get Zach Wilson. Quiet. Stupid ads. And then he's got Kyle Pitts going 4 to Atlanta. Cincinnati's going to take Penny Swell. Jalen Waddle goes 6 to Philadelphia. Then Devontae Smith goes 7 to Detroit, which I could see that happening. Justin Fields at 8 to the Jets after trading down. Patrick Surtain II going to Denver. Caleb Farley going to Dallas. Kwity Paye going to New York. The Giants. Again, I'm not sold on him. Trevor Lawrence going to San Francisco. Christian Darsaw going to the Chargers. Rashaan Slater going to Minnesota. Greg Russo going to New England. J.C. Horn going to Arizona. Micah Parsons going to Las Vegas. Xavier Collins going to Miami. Rondell Moore going to Washington. Tevin Jenkins going to Chicago. Kadarius Toney going to Indianapolis. Aziz Ujwario going to Tennessee. Jalen Phillips going to Jets. Mac Jones going to Pittsburgh, which would be a great pick if he's still available. Christian Barmore going to Jacksonville. Joe Tyrone going to Cleveland. Joseph Osaya going to Baltimore. Jason Oweyu going to New Orleans. Rashad Bateman going to Green Bay. Aaron Banks going to Buffalo. Ajaya Vera Tucker going to Kansas City. And Travis Etienne going to Tampa Bay. I think this is the last one that we're going to look at for today, or at least for now. I think that's probably going to be most likely. I like that last guy's draft there. I think that's a pretty fair draft for everybody. We got another 30 minutes left in the show. I want to thank all my sponsors, so thank you to nobody, in fact. Let's look at the NHL Power Rankings real quick. And then we'll talk a little bit of NASCAR. As we get into the middle of the season, we'll do NHL and NBA Power Rankings. We'll talk a little NASCAR in the last half of the show. So at number 1, the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers have been outstanding in the first half of the year. Again, I did not expect this coming in. I was not expecting them to be incredible. Alexander Barakov has been fantastic. At 2, you got Carolina, which again was a shock to me. I was not expecting Carolina to be this good. Vincent Trocheck has been amazing, and Sebastian Aho has been unstoppable. Then you got Tampa Bay at 3, which we kind of expected them to be in the top 5 to top 3. So that's awesome. Andrei Vasilevsky has been outstanding for the last year and a half. Then the Vegas Golden Knights, after having a rather mediocre season last year, have bounced back. Andre Fleury has been excellent. And Robert Leonard has been solid. Then at 5, you've got the Islanders, which I kind of thought the Islanders were one of those teams that could take a step forward or a step back this year. So far, they've taken a huge step forward. Andres Lee has been excellent, and Matt Martin has been a great in net. Washington at 6, again, another team that could take steps forward or back. But Backstrom has been excellent. And Ovi's been Ovi. Then Minnesota at 7, which is a surprise to me. I was not expecting them to be this good, but I've seen a couple of their games, and they're going to be a tough out. But Pittsburgh is at 8, not bad. Again, another team that could go forward or back, and definitely could go forward or back through the rest of the year. Toronto at 9. Toronto is such a conundrum to me because they have all this firepower, all this potential, and yet they can't seem to put it together in a week on a week in, week out basis, game in, game out. Austin Matthews has been excellent, and yet they just can't seem to be. They can't seem to be able to put it all together. The Avalanche were a team that I thought could take, definitely another team that I thought could go forward or back, depending on how injuries shook out. Then you have the Boston Bruins at 11, Winnipeg at 12, St. Louis at 13, Edmonton at 14. Edmonton is a team that is a piece or two away, I think. Montreal is definitely in a rebuild, but they're not so far gone that they're like in total rebuild mode. And Philadelphia is at 16. A team that's slipped in the last couple of weeks, but they could still make it in. Calgary at 17, Chicago at 15. They're a team that needs some help. They could be buyers of stars at the deadline. Los Angeles at 19. Yeah, I kind of figured that's where they would be. Arizona Coyotes at 19. New York Rangers at 21. Vegas, LA at 19, Arizona at 20, Rangers at 21, Dallas at 22. Again, this is a team that I don't know. This has been a surprising year for Dallas. I really expected them to come out strong and be a contender all year. Of course, they did have that whole 2-week layoff at the beginning of this season where everybody else was going. So they may be able to bounce back at the end of the season and make the playoffs. Columbus at 23. It shouldn't really come to any surprise that Columbus regressed. San Jose, again, another bad year for San Jose, and they probably need to tear down and a rebuild. Vancouver at 25. Nashville, I was expecting Vancouver to be really to be up there, but again, you're still halfway through the season. They got a chance to make some moves and try and get back in the hunt. Nashville, another disappointing season for Nashville. New Jersey's still in the middle of a major rebuild. Ottawa also rebuilding. Anaheim, Detroit, and Buffalo bringing up the rear. that is the NHL Power Rankings. Now let's hop over to the NBA and take a quick look at them. It's not going to be a comprehensive list of the best teams, how everyone, where everything how everything is going to shake out, but it's a great indicator of who the best team, what you need to know. Shit. So, let's quickly grab the or not. Oh, here we go. Okay. Brooklyn at 1, saw that coming. Philadelphia at 2, saw that coming. I thought the Phoenix Suns were going to be a good team this year. I thought they were going to challenge LA in the West, so no surprise to see them at 3. The Jazz at 4 was a bit of a surprise. I was not expecting Utah to be that good. LA at 5, no surprise there. Kind of figured they'd be up in the top 3. Milwaukee also thought they would be in the top 3. But they've had some injuries early in the year. The Clippers are going to choke. And the Mavericks, I thought the Mavericks are surprised to have bounced back to move back up into the top 10. Denver, who I thought could be a decent team, at 9. So yeah, probably right about there. Boston, they need to make a trade or two. Miami climbed back up to 11. They're a good team. My struggle in the first half of the season, they got a chance to make the playoffs. They're just gonna keep pushing through. Portland and the Trailblazers. I didn't think that Portland was gonna be any good, so they're surprisingly good. The Warriors honestly, I thought that the Warriors were going to be before the injury to Clay. I thought the Warriors were going to challenge again, like they have for the last 10 or 15 years, or 5 or 10 years, I should say. And the Spurs, I'm surprised they're even at 14. I didn't realize they were that good. They were doing that well. The Charlotte Hornets at 19 and 18, decent for the Hornets, especially in a kind of in a building, not a rebuild, but in a build a year. Memphis at 17, 18, not bad. The Knicks at 19 and 20, or 20 and 19, I should say. And yeah, they've got to make a push. The Hawks at 18. Yeah, kind of figured they'd be kind of shit. The Pacers I wasn't expecting anything from them. I wasn't expecting anything from Oklahoma City, so no surprise that they're at 20. 21 is New Orleans. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. They're in a rebuild, or they're in a building year. Chicago at 21, they're gonna have to they're gonna rebuild. They're gonna have to figure it out. Then the Raptors. I was not expecting the Raptors to fall off so hard. Washington at 24. Yeah. I was expecting them to be better. Sacramento at 25. Detroit at 26. So no surprises there. Cleveland. Who has a better record than Detroit? At 27. Okay, sure. The Magic stink. Timberwolves stink. The Rockets at one point were 11. Okay, so this must not be an updated list then. Let me look real quick. The Rockets are on a 19-game losing streak. Okay, so let me go back here real quick. One more back. And they're 2 games. Yeah, here we go. So they were at one point 11 and they were 11-7 at one point before they went on this 19 game skid. Okay, so that is that for that. And real quick, let's take a look at the NASCAR standings as we head into Atlanta weekend, which is always a fun weekend. So coming up this afternoon in a little bit, you've got the Camping World Truck Series at 2:30. So a couple hours from now, Nemechek, Busch, Crafton, Friesen, and Rhodes are your top 5. And let me see if I can pull up okay. That's your starting grid. In the top 5 starting grid. So let's skip over here to the Xfinity, which is a 5 o'clock start this afternoon. So they're going to be racing into the night. Your top 5 are Austin Cindric, Jeff Burton, AJ Allmendinger, Brandon Brown, and Harrison Burton. And then we got the top 5. Your starting 5 are okay. Here we go. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Chase Elliott. So I wanted to, as I mentioned earlier, I want to go grab the standings real quick so that I can look at those. Cup Series, we're gonna look at the top 16 as they sit right now. So number 1 is Denny Hamlin, number 2 is Brad Keselowski, number 3 Joey Logano, 4 is Truex, 5 is Larson, 6 is Elliott, 7 is Harvick, 8 is Bell, 9 is Byron, 10 is Busch, 11 is McDowell, 12 is Austin Dillon, Ryan Blaney is 13, Ryan Preece is 14, Kyle Busch is 15, Ricky Stenhouse is 16, Alex Bowman is 17. Oh, we'll look at the top 20. Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, and Cole Custer round out your top 20. Right now as it sits, so you have your top 5, only 2 guys have wins. So, and then you have 2 wins at 8 and 9, or 1 apiece. Then you have a win, and then you have a win at 11, and nobody else has a win. So there's a lot of. So I just, I figure the top 10 are probably going to be all right. So I just want to look at the top. I want to go back down to the top 20. With Ricky Stenhouse, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher. So this is the bottom. This is 16 through 20. Ricky Stenhouse, Chris Buescher. Oh, seriously, you cocksucker. There we go. Chris Buescher at 16. Or Ricky Stenhouse at 16, I'm sorry. Alex Bowman at 17 and Chris Buescher at 18. Yeah, definitely can see a lot of movement there. I think everybody, because you got 12 point from 20th to 16th is about 25 points. So there's a lot of movement that can be had there. A couple of bad weeks for anyone in the top 12, 12 to 16. You could definitely see them slip out of the top 10, or out of the playoffs. I mean, so that's the Cup Series. So we're gonna skip over here to the Xfinity Series, which is a better series some weeks, and we're gonna look at and there's only 12 guys that make the playoffs. Austin Cindric is 1, Daniel Hemrick is 2, Harrison Burton is 3. Or Jeb Burton, I'm sorry. AJ Allmendinger is 4, Harrison Burton is 5, Brandon Jones is 6, Myatt Snyder is 7, Justin Haley is 8, Brandon Brown is 9, Jeremy Clemens is 10, Justin Allgaier is 11, and Riley Herbst, rounding out your top 12, is 12. Michael Annett is 13th, and Landon Castle is 14th. Ty Gibbs is 15th. Now, Ty Gibbs, I don't believe Ty Gibbs is running for points at this point, but if he has another strong running in a race later this season, he may end up becoming they may end up just moving him into the championship battle. I mean, what the hell? Why not? What do you got to lose? That worked really well. Ignore that. So yeah, with you've got 9 points separating the last three guys. Again, I think Clemens is he's got 20 points on 11th and like 40 points on 12th. So I kind of think that there's only going to be 2 spots available. Barring wins and all that, we've got another plate race coming up here later this year at Talladega. Talladega, and actually they have 3 races left: Talladega and Daytona to close out the year, I believe. And I'll look at that in a minute, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So then you've got we'll go over to the Truck Series, which has, I believe, 12 as well, 10 or 12, something like that. So your number 1 is John Hunter Nemechek. Ben Rhodes is 2. Sheldon Creed is 3. Matt Crafton is 4. Thomas is 5. Stuart Friesen is 6. Enfinger is 7. Gilliland is 8. Sauter is 9. Hoover is 10. Austin Wayne Self is 11. And Austin Hill is 12. And then Christian Eckes and Zane Smith and Rafael Lessard, Brett Moffitt are your 16. I think they have 10 or 12. I don't remember. So you got a lot of movement. From 17 to 11 is only 18 points. There's a couple of good weeks, and you can reach yourself right back in the hunt. Nemechek has a sizable lead over. Nemechek has been one of the best drivers this year. So definitely look to see him be a threat for the rest of the year. As we get into some of the more interesting weeks, we'll have to see how it shakes out. So let me go back here. And they have a handful. They still have a lot of maybe they don't end at Daytona. That's the Truck Series. Let me look at this. Let me go to the schedule real quick. I know, it's scintillating television. As my back itches. This looks like that's not what I want, CBS. You absolute bastards. I'm gonna look at the NASCAR 2021 schedule. Here's the full schedule. Yep. So the Cup Series is going to end on August at Daytona. A chance to get another surprise winner. And then the Xfinity Series, I believe they also end at Daytona. I just gotta let it load. Yes. The Xfinity Series will end at Daytona as well. And again, a chance to get a surprise winner. So there's a lot of chances to make some moves. There's a lot of road courses in the Xfinity where you're going to have a lot of, you've got the Circuit of Americas, Mid-Ohio, and Pocono, Road America, Watkins Glen, and the Indy Road Course. So you got 4 or 5 more road courses coming up. And then I need to go here. Okay, and the Truck Series will end at Watkins Glen. But that's a road course. It's a chance to get a surprise winner. And that is that for that. So, thank you all for tuning in, hanging out, even if you were only here for a second or two. I appreciate you being here. This was a lot of fun. Next week, Bradley Walker should be back on the show, and it'll be even more fun with him here. If you want to get in contact with me, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Adam Mangold. Shoot me a message. We'll see what we can do. We'll work things out, and we'll have a lot of fun together. Again, it's been fun. It's been real. I really don't have anything else at this point. I talked about everything I really want to talk about. Normally, I would still be going, but I really did get everything in. Because that's the thing. The thing about it is that there is. That's the thing I like about doing one show a week or two, actually. Is I am on the Walker Report with Bradley Walker. And that's the thing about doing that's why I like doing one show a week. Is I don't have to figure out, okay, what am I gonna talk about today? What happened last night? What happened tomorrow? Let's look at baseball real quick, because we haven't talked about baseball at all. We're just gonna go over some of the baseball real quick. Nothing crazy. I think we're just gonna look at the top fantasy baseball players, or the top fantasy teams. I really hate CBS Sports. I don't know why I come to this site, because they're an absolute ass clown. Oh. We got a couple more weeks, and then spring training will finally be over, and we can actually get to some real baseball. That'll be nice. And so last year, we're just looking at the top 5 guys were DJ LeMahieu from New York with a 3.64 average in 60 or so games. Luke Voigt with 22 home runs in 60 games. We'll do the math real quick. Let me actually look at him real quick and see how many games he actually played. I just opened the link, damn it. Thank you, stupid piece of shit. Okay, so he played. He's a little bit older. Mm. Oh, okay. I see. I think I see. What? That doesn't make any sense. I'm so confused. Do you? Did it not take me to the right guy? What in the world? Let's just look at MLB stats. Let me go to ESPN and see if this makes any more sense as I get ready to wind down the show. So LeMahieu led the league in batting. Luke Voigt led the league in home runs last year, which okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this is making a whole hell of a lot more sense. Okay, so in 56 games he had 22 home runs. So that's a home run every third game. So between Be quiet. Good Lord, not every video needs to play instantly. Holy mother of jumping. So he'd be on pace for about 54 home runs, give or take. So yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like the Yankees, of course. It's hard to bet against the Yankees. So yeah, that's a little bit of baseball. Let me go back and look at the other numbers real quick. Actually, there we go. That's better. Bring that back up for me. And let's look at the standings throughout spring training. We'll kind of get an idea of what maybe to expect in the upcoming season. So Kansas City is the best team. It feels like you need to be quiet, is how it feels. So Kansas City is 12-6 with a 3-game but on a 3-game losing streak. And the Cubs are in a 3-game winning streak in 10-5. LA is 10-5, and I don't know if that's the Dodgers or the Cubs or the Dodgers are 11-5. Here we go. Stop loading, you bastard. There we go. We're going to look at this before we close it out. So the best team in baseball in the preseason so far has been the Kansas City Royals. And then Chicago's second, the Dodgers are third. And this is in the Cactus League. And the Rangers are fifth. Milwaukee, Colorado, Oakland, Seattle, San Francisco, Arizona, San Diego, Cleveland, Chicago, Cincinnati. Flipping over to the Grapefruit League, you got the Yankees, Marlins, Red Sox, who are 10-6 actually. Okay, they're not bad. Blue Jays, Nationals, Mets, Philadelphia, Atlanta, St. Louis, who I think will be better. I think they'll be better in the regular season. Pittsburgh, Detroit, Tampa, who I think will be better in the regular season. Baltimore, Minnesota, Houston. I said that out of order, but it really doesn't matter. So that's that for that. And with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap the show for today. It's been fun. It's been real. I want to thank our men and women of law enforcement, firefighters, police officers, first responders of all types, the nurses and doctors have been keeping us healthy as best they can throughout this entire shit show that has been the last year and a half. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. To all of our soldiers, both at home and overseas, the ones that have left us, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you next week. Thank you very much.